Listen, I had no idea that there was this whole subculture for Muppet porn. I'm just trying to find reviews for this movie online, right? And I stumbled upon so many Rule 34 pages that ended up in my bookmarks. It was insane. Hot damn, Jenny Nicholson was even writing articles for Playboy about the secret sex life of puppets. And while I'm not judging anybody who's into that, as a cartoon myself, I'm gonna stick to the hentais. As far as this movie goes, it almost got sued for fronting on Sesame Street and ruining the brand. But I went into it, and while a lot of jokes did miss, I thought it was a decent rent-it, mainly because of the twist. Let me explain. So this is actually directed by the son of the great Jim Henson, who was the guy who created Kermit the Frog, Ernie. Dude worked on Sesame Street for decades, and Junior over here decided to take all that and make a Robot Chicken episode of his father's work. Like, this thing is Chinatown for puppets. Species be treated worse than the orcs in Bright. And for Phil Phillips, who's the main character, he's got a law out against him and any other stuffed individual because they can't become cops, considering something that he did back in the day, where he failed to save his partner and he ended up shooting an innocent civilian instead. Years later, he's a PPI and gets forced to work with his old partner when a series of connected murders start to happen. See, back in the 90s, they were in a very famous TV show called the Happytime Gang. It was pretty much their Black Panther that should have gone into syndication, but since it didn't, all of the stars pretty much fall harder than Aaron Carter before getting hit one by the serial killer. Phil's brother, who was actually on the show and he Charlemagned himself, gets shredded worse than your high school homework did. Lyle, who was also on the show, is now a drug lord and he gets Tupac'd. There's these other two known as kissing cousins who I think might have died from genetics. And Jenny, who was the only human on the show and is actually Phil's ex, gets casinoed in her own car. Now, if you saw the trailer, you know the killer is trying to pin it all on Phil. But if you also saw the Red Band trailer, you would have seen that redhead, and you know that Phil services his clients till they're happy. Even if the big twist is that they're the bad guys. See, remember that guy that I had mentioned who Phil shot earlier? Considering something that he did back in the day, where he failed to save his partner and he ended up shooting an innocent civilian instead. Yeah, well, that guy just so happens to be this girl's father, and all of these years she's been coming up with a plan to seek revenge now that she's older. Girl even married Elizabeth in order to bank on the TV residuals, but then gets the best head of her life when Philip shoots her. And then everything gets resolved. It's a Muppets movie where they smash. I don't really have an ending for this. Thank you guys for checking out this video. There's this thing with Melissa McCarthy movies, right? Where I feel like she has a lot of good jokes, but the problem comes in the editing room, right? Where they either don't cut it in time, or they do this thing where they just want to drag it out, or they leave a lot of the misses in there. And the bad part about it is that, I know she's been like in Comedy Central or Saturday Night Live. When it comes to smaller skits, she'd be way funnier. But when you make this hour 40, almost 2-hour movie, you're going to see so many of the misses, right? I don't know what else to tell you. I'm curious to know your thoughts. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll send you some sugar for your puppets.